Yes, Espedia. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the channel. I hope your day and your week have been going very well so far. In ancient times, the oracle was a source of wisdom and fortune telling for the people. In modern times, he gives out football picks. NFL Week 2 is officially upon us, guys. We've got some great games to go ahead and talk about, but more importantly, I've got some great picks to go ahead and share with you. But first, as always, people, please make sure to go ahead and hit the subscribe button, hit that like button, and drop a comment down below. It helps the channel grow, and it really does mean a ton to us. All right, guys, so week 2 of the NFL Oracle is officially here. But first, before we dive into this week's picks, we do have to go ahead and go through how we did last week for week 1. And what was looking like a pretty strong week to start ended up nosediving towards the end. We had a really good start there with the Thursday night season opener game, the Friday night game, even into the 1 p.m. slate. We had a lot of nice winning picks there. And then we got into the 4 o'clock slate, and that's when things basically nosedived and spiraled out of control. We lost each of our last 5 picks to close out last week. Now, to be fair, the Ravens money line and Bears money line both looked like we had winners there. We're going to finish the week off strong. And then, obviously, if you watch those games, some pretty incredible games, to be honest. The Ravens and Bears both blew it. So, started off strong, ended the week off on a bit of a poor note there. Overall, we did lose money last week, 7-9. We did lose a healthy amount of units. These are, of course, the dangers of betting week 1, but do not fear. We've got a lot of football left to go, a whole season ahead of us. We will finish positive by the end of the year. Last year, I want to say we were like 120 and 120 wins and like 80 losses, something like that. So we will bounce back. A little bit of a slow start. The early weeks of the NFL are always a little bit difficult. So like I always say, be cautious when betting, because that's a good example of last week. Things can go crazy very quickly in the early parts of the NFL season. So week 1 in the rearview mirror. We've got a new week, new opportunities, and plenty of picks to go ahead and share with you guys. So without further ado, let's dive into our week 2 NFL picks. All right, guys, and for our first pick in this week 2 NFL slate, we are targeting the Thursday night football game, which obviously comes out tonight. We've got Commanders at Packers, 8:15 p.m. kickoff. We're going with the Green Bay Packers on the spread here, -3. Now, I'm grabbing this personally for -130 on BetMGM. That's what's available to me. But you do have a couple of different odds on varying sports books. Do not worry if you miss any picks at any point. All of the final plays will be down below in the pinned comments, as well as we will have timestamps for each and every game we cover. And the link, the outlier link for the picks will be in the description as well. So plenty of ways to go ahead and follow along. So don't worry if I'm talking for a while, but these videos are usually a little bit longer. If you miss anything, do not fear. We've got plenty of opportunities to go ahead and follow along and tail the picks. So like I said, the first pick here, Packers -3. This is an interesting spot. These are two really good teams. Honestly, for Thursday Night Football, I'm pretty impressed that we're getting this kind of a game. Usually Thursday night is a bit of a crapshoot. But this is a really solid matchup. The Commanders obviously had a strong start, beating the New York Giants 21-6. Solid win to kick off the year. They're coming off a very impressive season last year. And the Packers were already poised. I had picked them to represent the NFC in the Super Bowl before they made the Micah Parsons trade. So these are two of the heavyweights of the NFC going toe-to-toe. One of the big reasons why I like Green Bay here is just the advantage they have. This is a short week for both of these teams. They both played on Sunday. The difference is that Green Bay already played the Lions at home last week, and then they get to stick around at home here to host the Commanders. Washington, on the flip side, has to travel on short rest to Lambeau Field. Not exactly an easy place to play for an opposing team. So that is a big advantage the Packers have here, is that home field advantage on short rest. They don't have to travel. They're already there. The Commanders, coming off a Sunday, have to travel right away and get right back on track to play the Packers in Lambeau. On top of that, the Packers looked very, very strong in their Week 1 win over the Lions. Now, Detroit, obviously one of the heavyweights from last season. They have some changes, new coordinators, some stuff. So Detroit was trying to figure some things out on the fly in that game. Green Bay looked pretty dominant on both sides of the ball. Defense and offense, they looked very, very solid. I still think Green Bay's offense has some work to do to really get to their full potential. They still have some receiver questions there, but I do like Green Bay more in this spot. I think this game will be pretty close, but I like the Packers defense just a little bit more than I like the Commanders defense. I have some questions with Washington's offensive line. The Giants were able to put a decent amount of pressure on Jaden Daniels in Week 1. The Packers defense looks to be a little bit better, obviously, with Micah Parsons and Rashawn Gary and the other pieces they have on that defense. I think Green Bay should be able to put some pressure on Jaden Daniels here, which obviously fares well for us when taking the Packers -3. On the flip side, Washington's defense did a pretty good job, but to be fair, That's Russell Wilson and the Giants offense. This is now Jordan Love and the Packers offense. Washington's defense last year was a little suspect, specifically their run defense. They were a little suspect last year. I have question marks now as to how that's going to look this year. Looking at the right side of the screen here, the Commanders' defense last season was 30th in the NFL, bottom 3 team in terms of rushing yards allowed per game last season. They were a pretty solid pass defense, but their run defense left a lot to be desired. Now, they did improve, or they're supposed to improve, but going off that week 1 win over the Giants, it's only one game, and the Giants are not exactly the best team to measure the success of your defense because, let's be honest, it's the Giants. The Packers, obviously, with Josh Jacobs, they have a very strong run game, so going to be very interesting to see how that works out. I just think Green Bay is a little more put together right now than the Commanders are. I still have quite a few question marks with this Washington team. They're a good team for sure, but in a matchup like this with the Packers, I do wonder how they will fare. So I'm going to side with the team I trust a little bit more here, and that is, of course, Green Bay on the spread, -3. All right, guys, the next game we're taking a look at, speaking of the Detroit Lions, we have Bears at Lions, 1 p.m. kickoff on Sunday. And I'm going with the under here, 48.5 in this game. Now, I'm grabbing this from -136 over on FanDuel, but as you can see, a lot of different options to go ahead and tail this play. I thought about taking Lions -5.5 or -6.5 in this spot, but Chicago did, for the most part, look solid until about the fourth quarter. They did look pretty decent in that game against a solid Vikings team. So I have question marks in terms of the spread there. So I think the under is the safer play in this spot. Both of these defenses are solid. The Bears defense in particular, I know they kind of fell apart in that Minnesota game, but they are pretty solid, especially their pass defense. Now, how much of that was J.J. McCarthy struggling in his first career start, and how much of that was the Bears pass defense is just that good, remains to be seen. Either way, I think the Bears defense is solid. I think the Lions offense, with the new coordinators, new stuff, they are still figuring things out, as you could see in that week 1 loss to the Packers. They have a lot of things to change, okay? It's a different world now without Ben Johnson running this offense. On the flip side, when talking about the Chicago Bears, kind of the same circumstance, right? Lions defense is pretty solid. Not a great defense. I think the Bears defense is better than Detroit's, but the Lions do have a solid defense for the most part. But the Bears also, new head coach in Ben Johnson, they have a new offensive system that they are also trying to figure out very early on. And, at times look pretty good versus the Vikings in week 1, but I have a lot of question marks. And obviously they did fall apart late in that game. I think both these offenses are still trying to figure things out. It's early. This is what happens when you don't have a preseason, when the guys don't take the preseason seriously. You're trying to figure things out in the early parts of the year. Both of these offenses are still under construction, and they both have some decent defenses. So I think that's a recipe for an under in this spot. Specifically when talking about the Detroit side of things, I just don't know if they're going to have the offensive input to go ahead and come in to add to this total. I just don't think the Lions will be able to score enough. I think the Bears, maybe they score 20-something. Maybe the Bears win this game outright. Who knows? I just don't think either team is going to have that big of a scoring effort. I think it's going to be a lower scoring game. I think it's going to be more of a gritty, kind of ugly battle where you have two offenses still trying to figure things out on the fly. But I think the under 48.5 is the right play in this one. All right, guys, this next pick is a bit of a question mark for sure. It's a coin flip kind of game. I understand if a lot of people probably won't tail this one. We're looking at Pats Dolphins, 1 p.m. kickoff on Sunday. We're going with the New England Patriots here on the money line. Now, obviously, I do have to go ahead and say this right off the bat. I'm a Patriots fan, so you might think this is a biased pick. Genuinely, I picked against the Patriots basically last week. I mean, I took their team total over, which obviously they didn't even come close to, but I said in the video last week, I didn't love the Patriots' chances of winning that game. They played terribly. You know who played worse? The Miami Dolphins. Honestly, I really don't know what to make of either of these teams. The real reason why I'm taking New England here, despite the fact that they have a history of struggling in Miami, which obviously doesn't fare well for the money line, is the fact that there's two different reasons as to why these teams struggled so poorly in week 1. For the Patriots, it's a matter of they completely revitalized their team in the offseason, okay? It's a complete rebuild. Whole new defense. The offense is completely changed. New offensive line. New running back room with Trayvon Henderson, new weapons on the offense, new coach, new coordinators. More than 50% of this team was revamped in the offseason, so of course you're going to have your early season struggles. Now, I really was disappointed by it. So I knew they would struggle a little bit here in week 1. I didn't think it'd be that bad, but I do think this is a case more of this is growing pains for a Patriots team that's in year 1 of the Vrabel era that had a lot of changes in the offseason. It's going to take some time for those things to settle in and things to fall into place in the way they want them to. For Miami, a little bit of a different circumstance. This is a team that just seems dysfunctional to me. It's a team that it just looks like things are, it's not a matter of, new system or things that fall into place. It just seems like this is a team headed for a full-scale rebuild. It feels like Mike McDaniel by week 6 will be fired. It feels like Tyreek Hill will be traded by the end of the year. It feels like everything is falling apart in Miami. They just feel dysfunctional. You could see Tyreek Hill crashing out on the sidelines a little bit. This started last year, and it really has gone to this point where I think Tua, the offensive line has clear issues. Pat's D-line honestly looked pretty decent versus the Raiders, so I don't know how that'll work for Tua. A lot of things that are wrong with this Miami team right now. Their defense, their pass rush is pretty solid, which is what I'm a little bit scared about for New England here because the Pats offensive line did not look great in week 1. But this Miami team, that loss to the Colts, it was more than just they got outplayed. It's just they are in a mess right now. I think you're going to see Miami blow it up by the end of the year. I think this is a Dolphins team headed for disaster. And then for that reason, I'm taking the Patriots because this is not a Patriots team that's giving up on themselves. It's a team that has some growing pains. The Dolphins are a team that seem like they're kind of imploding right now. So give me the Patriots on the money line, which I'm grabbing for plus 108 on Novig. But again, you got a lot of different options to go ahead and tail this play. Honestly, this game is a coin flip, but I would rather take the side where I feel like there's more stability in terms of like this team is still a team versus Miami where it just kind of seems like things are not going well behind closed doors. So give me the Pats on the money line. I almost didn't play this, but I'm like, you know what? For the plus money play, these teams are pretty even. I'll take the Pats on the money line. All right, guys, next game up, we have Bills at Jets, 1 p.m. kickoff on Sunday. I actually have 2 picks to go and share with you guys for this game. The first pick being the Buffalo Bills on the spread, minus 5.5, which I'm grabbing currently for minus 129 over on Novig. I think we're getting a bit of a discounted price because the Jets played so well in week 1 versus the Steelers. And to be fair, I've seen some people online talking about this, and I think it is a fair point. The Jets offense, now I'm not saying they're anywhere close to what the Ravens offense is, but in terms of the style, the type of quarterback they have, the kind of dual threat quarterback, the Jets offense is similar in that regard where they have a dual threat running quarterback. They got a great receiver in Garrett Wilson, a solid running game behind Breece Hall, and a decent offensive line. I understand that kind of parallel to the Ravens, where obviously you saw Buffalo struggled for most of that game against that Ravens offense. I get why you would then take the Jets offense coming off of a really strong week 1 performance against the Steelers. That being said, Buffalo is still, I think, the better team here. They have dominated this rivalry of late, winning 4 of the last 5 against the Jets. And my point also is this. If the Jets couldn't stop Aaron Rodgers and the Steelers offense, and there's a lot of, again, the Jets defense is supposed to be good, so we'll see if maybe that was just a week 1 thing, if they'll kind of get back on track here. But if they couldn't stop Aaron Rodgers and the Steelers, what exactly is going to happen when you play Josh Allen and the Bills, a team that just scored 41 on Baltimore? That's where, now the one thing I will say in the Jets' favor, again, it sounds like I'm favoring the Jets, but I do like Buffalo in this spot. The Jets' run defense actually did a pretty good job of taking the Steelers' run game away and forcing Aaron Rodgers to throw. The problem is here, the kind of same thing. If you force the ball in Josh Allen's hands, do you really want that? He's also way more mobile than Aaron Rodgers is. Aaron Rodgers got hit quite a few times. The Bills' offensive line is better. Josh Allen is more mobile. I just don't know if the Jets' defense will be as effective. They weren't even all that effective to begin with in week 1. I don't know how effective they'll be here in week 2. And again, the Bills have dominated this rivalry of late. They have covered this line of 5.5 in 3 of the last 5 meetings against the New York Jets. This line opened at 8.5. It's now come all the way down to 6.5, and I'm getting at 5.5 again for minus 129. So the line is moving down in part because Buffalo's defense did look pretty crappy against the Ravens. That was the Ravens, though, to be fair. And the Jets played so well against Pittsburgh that people are buying into this Jets team a little bit. I still think Buffalo to win this game by 6 is a very strong bet. They've got to still, the defense didn't look great. But I think we're putting, I am a Justin Fields guy. I'm rooting for him for sure to be successful, although I don't like the Jets. I'm a Patriots fan. I am hoping that he has success in his career. I think he deserves it. But this is Buffalo. This is the Jets. This is the Bills. The Bills, I think, are still a way different playing level than the Jets. I think they take care of business here on the road and kind of silence some of the doubts about their defense in this one. So give me the Bills here, minus 5.5 on the spread. And then my second pick from this game is actually the over 44.5, which I'm grabbing for minus 132 over on FanDuel. Now, I know I just said I think the Bills defense will kind of get itself right, but they gave up 40 points in week 1. Even if they give up 21 in week 2, that is an improvement. That's really what this comes down to, guys. I think the Bills are going to do most of the heavy lifting here. They just scored 41 against the Ravens. They should be able to score at least 27, 28 points in this game. I think that's a pretty fair thing. I think a 28-20 or a 28-21 kind of game is very realistic in this spot. I think the over 44.5 is a good line. Buffalo will do most of the heavy lifting, but I think the Jets offense has proven they are good enough where they should be able to contribute at least a few touchdowns to this total. And that's really all you need, because Buffalo, like I said, they can go ahead and put up between 24 and 30 points. They can put up even more, obviously more than 30 points. They can carry the load offensively in terms of contributing towards this total. But I think the Jets offense is just good enough, and there's just enough questions about the Bills defense where I think the Jets can score enough to go ahead and grab this total. It's 44.5. It's not that high of a total, if we're being honest. Look at the two meetings last year. The last time they played, the total hit 54, so well over this. And the first time, it was 43. They just missed the mark. So I think this over 44.5 or minus 132. It's a pretty solid play. Oh, one little nugget to go ahead and share with you guys here. The over of 46.5, and again, we're grabbing it for 44.5. The over of 46.5 has hit in 9 of the Bills' last 13 games as a favorite. So, obviously getting at 44.5, it just makes it even better for us here in this spot. All right, guys, next up we have an NFC East showdown. We got Giants at Cowboys, 1 p.m. kickoff, and I am going with the Dallas Cowboys here, minus 4.5 on the spread. We're grabbing it for minus 110 over on DraftKings, but again, you got a lot of different options to go ahead and tail this play. A lot of the same things I talked about last week when I talked about that Cowboys-Eagles game does apply here. Dak Prescott, when it comes to playing the NFC East, has been incredibly successful straight up, but also against the spread. I'm just not buying this Giants team. I think their pass rush was solid, and I think a lot of people have been gushing about their defense, and the defense did play decently versus the Commanders, but I don't think it was like this otherworldly defense where it's like, oh my God, their defense is going to win them games. I don't think it's that. It's solid, and they got a decent pass rush right now, but there's a lot of question marks. This Giants offensive line is abysmal. Now, if the Cowboys had Micah Parsons, this line would probably be 6.5, but that obviously is the big element there. I just look at the way Dallas played against the Eagles being the best team in the NFL, obviously. They hung in there. Now, granted, Jalen Carter played literally not even, I don't think you would count that as a snap. He played on, he came in the game and spit and got kicked out. Jalen Carter playing that game would have affected things for the Cowboys. He's that impactful of a player, where the Cowboys offense, I don't think would have been nearly as successful had Jalen Carter played. That being said, I don't think the Giants defense is better than the Eagles defense. And so I just think Dallas offense, they look pretty good at parts. I have question marks with this Giants offense. This is not Jalen Hurts. They don't have the rushing attack that the Eagles do. Russell Wilson looked pretty weak for the most part in that week 1 game. Again, to be fair to him, their offensive line did him no favors. But I just don't love this Giants team right now. I think a lot of people are banking on that defense carrying them and Russ being at least average. The defense was fine, not great, and Russell Wilson was far from good in that game. So a lot of question marks. They can't really run the ball effectively with that offensive line. At least that's what it looks like right now. I trust the Cowboys offense to go ahead and score some points in this game. And I think defensively, Dallas, we all want to kind of crap on Dallas, but they do have some decent players, and they do add Kenny Clark, which will obviously help in stopping the run. That's what Jerry Jones obviously wanted with him, right? But I think for 4.5 points, them to win this game by 5. And by the way, the Cowboys have dominated this rivalry of late. They've won 8 straight games over the Giants, but if we narrow it down to just the last 5 matchups, because that's the last 2.5 years basically, the last 5 matchups, the Cowboys have won obviously all 5, and they've covered this particular spread of minus 4.5 in each of those last 5 matchups against the New York Giants. They've dominated them. They've killed them. I don't know why that would change here. The Cowboys are not a great team, but they do have enough still. As long as they can stay, again, knock on wood here, as long as they can stay healthy for a little while, this team will be a tough play. And teams like this, they can definitely go ahead and beat. So Cowboys minus 4.5. That is the play here. All right, guys, next up we have Seahawks at Steelers, 1 p.m. kickoff on Sunday. Now, if you watched H2H, which you haven't, H2H is the sports betting show that myself and Ev, we do together. We go head-to-head and battle it out each and every week. It's already out. If you haven't seen it, make sure to go ahead and check that video out. The Steelers game, this Steelers-Seahawks game, was a big talking point in that video. And although I do lean Steelers, I do like the Steelers in this spot. I think the safer play, and more importantly, the smarter play, is to go with the under, target the total in this game, the under 41.5, which I'm grabbing for minus 136 over on Novig. Again, I do lean Steelers at home in this spot, but this under is spicy. Both of these defenses are very, very strong. Now, the Steelers defense didn't look that strong in week 1 versus the Jets, giving up 32 points. Justin Fields actually had a lot of success moving the football against the Steelers defense. Now, what I can chalk that up to is that they struggle with running quarterbacks. Now, that is a bit of a problem when you play in the AFC North with Lamar Jackson, who you play twice a year, but that's definitely not the Seahawks offense. What I really like about this total is I think both of these teams do a lot of the same things very well, but both of these offenses have some similar problems, and even when it's not similar, it's adjacent. So let me explain what I mean by that. Seattle, one of the big reasons why they struggled against the Niners in week 1 is this offensive line, and we knew this coming into the year. Their offensive line is not good. It's a bottom 10 offensive line in the league. Now, when you had Geno Smith, he was a little bit more mobile. He could get the ball a little bit quicker. He was a little better under pressure. Sam Darnold, not so much. And that was the biggest concern of mine and a lot of people when the Seahawks acquired Sam Darnold. Yes, when you gave him Minnesota's offensive line and those weapons, he was very strong. And I talked about this in H2H. When the offensive line had injuries in Minnesota and when things started to go wrong at the end of the year where the offensive line was not as stable, he was under pressure more and he crumbled under that pressure. This Seahawks offensive line is not good enough. And again, it's early in the year. Offensive line take time to gel. Maybe their offensive line will be at least a little bit better by the middle of the year. But if it's as bad as it was in week 1, Sam Darnold will be under pressure consistently. And I don't think he's good enough to either A, get out of that pressure, or B, complete high caliber throws under that pressure. So I'm very concerned with that Seahawks offense right now. They have a lot of nice pieces that I like, but that offensive line could be their undoing. And obviously you're playing the Steelers defense with TJ Watt and all the weapons they have on defense. That's not a good thing because they can put pressure on you for sure. And on the flip side, we already saw it in week 1. The Steelers offensive line did not play great. The Jets were able to get to Aaron Rodgers consistently. He's obviously not as mobile as he once was, and he took a lot of hits. This Seahawks defense also very strong. I would say stronger than the Jets defense, much stronger than the Jets defense. The recipe's out there. You can get to Rodgers, and at this age, I don't know how many hits you want to see him taking, and that could be a really big problem here. I think the Seahawks defense is that good where they could go ahead and put that pressure on Rodgers like the Jets did, but they also have better coverage where they could go ahead and hold themselves better than the Jets did. Granted, that Niners offense isn't the Niners offense. They, obviously have a lot of injuries and whatnot, but they held them to 17 points in that game. They played very strong defensively, just the offense couldn't contribute. And again, we're not worried about sides here. We're just worried about the total under 41.5. I think both these defenses are going to make both these offenses have a rough day. So I really do like the under here. I think if it was a few points higher, I'd feel even better about it. But 41.5, I think, is a very solid line. These teams are definitely going to go for that under here. All right, guys, a few more games still to go here in the 1 o'clock window on Sunday. Next up, we have Rams-Titans. Again, 1 p.m. kickoff on Sunday. We have another under here, the under 43.5 in this Rams-Titans game. We're grabbing that for minus 136 over on FanDuel. But again, a lot of different options to go ahead and tail this play. I'm going to be honest, I do actually kind of lean Titans in this spot, but their offensive line was so bad. Cam Ward got sacked 6 times in week 1. This Rams team also has a pretty decent pass rush led by the impressive young pass rusher Jared Verse. It's for that reason and how poor their offensive line looked in week 1 that I'm going to go ahead and just avoid taking a side. And instead, I'll focus here on the under 43.5. Now, the Rams are coming off a solid win over a very good Texans team, or at least I thought they were a very good Texans team. They didn't look great in week 1. The defense did its job, but the offense also didn't play all that great. Now, granted, the Texans have an elite defense, but Tennessee's defense actually looked pretty good too in week 1. They actually put a lot of pressure on Bo Nix. He didn't play very well at all versus Titans defense. I like Tennessee's defense. I really do. I thought they were solid last year. I just thought that last year the numbers don't look great because the offense put them consistently in bad situations. But they actually were a pretty decent defensive team last year as well. Now you go to this year, and I think the offense is better. Still a lot of question marks and a lot of fixing up to do on that offense. But I think both these defenses are solid, and both of these offenses have some question marks. I think the Rams' offensive line is a little shaky right now. Matt Stafford, at this point in his career, you could see I know they're saying he's fine. I truly don't think he's 100% healthy right now watching him play. The one big thing here is obviously if the Rams kind of break through, but even if the Rams break through, I just don't think Tennessee will be able to contribute. Now, that's why I like this play versus taking a side, because obviously you could take Titans +6 and the Rams end up having a good game and beating them by 14. The Rams could win by 14. This under could still hit because I just question how many points Tennessee is going to score. The Rams only gave up 9 points to the Texans last week. I wouldn't say Tennessee's offense is all that much better. They also have similar offensive line issues comparable to Houston. So I just don't see Tennessee scoring a lot. I thought about taking the Titans team total under, but I think the overall under 43.5 is safe because, again, I just don't really think the Rams offense is going to go crazy in this game either. So under 43.5, that's the play here. All right, guys, in our last game from the 1 o'clock window on Sunday, we have Jaguars, Bengals, again, 1 p.m. kickoff. I'm actually taking Jacksonville here +3.5 on the spread. I'm grabbing it from -110 over on FanDuel. We got a lot of options to go ahead and tail this play. I'm drinking the Jaguars Kool-Aid here. I was actually very impressed with Jacksonville in week 1. Now, that's not really saying much because they played the Carolina Panthers, who looked absolutely abysmal in week 1. But I do think Jaguars are going to take a leap this year under new head coach Liam Cohen. I think he's going to fix the offense. Now, the defense still has some question marks here, which could be a problem when playing the Bengals. But I think their offense is going to be good enough that they can go ahead and be a frisky team this season. On the Bengals side of things, their early season struggles are still there. I know they won week 1, and everyone's like, oh, they exercised their early season demons. Yes and no, because yes, they did play better in week 1. They won the game. I wouldn't say they played better. They won the game, which is obviously better than it has been in years past. Throw back to last year when they lost the Patriots in week 1. That was an abysmal loss for them. But yes, they beat the Browns, but it's the Browns, and I know their defense is still elite, but this is not a great Browns team. And honestly, the Bengals barely hung on. If the Browns had a kicker, they lose that game. So I think Cincinnati, their early season struggles are still very much there. I think this Jaguars team offensively can do more damage against this weak Bengals defense. That's the key thing here. Now, yes, the Jaguars defense is nowhere near Cleveland, so Cincinnati should be able to move the ball a little bit easier. They should be able to score some points easier. But their defense is also going to be put on blast a little bit more than the Browns were able to. So this, I thought about taking the over here, but I just think these early season overs, they haven't been hitting at a high rate. And, both these offenses, they were solid in week 1. Well, I guess the Jaguars were. The Bengals really weren't. I just have question marks on how efficient both offenses will be here. So I think the over is not bad. I'm going to avoid it. Maybe a teased over. We'll talk about some teasers and parlays at the end of the video here. I just think with the state of these offenses and the state of these defenses, I think it's going to be a close game. And so taking the Jaguars at plus 3.5 is key. Now, if this line moves, because I'm recording this on Thursday, obviously the game's on Sunday. If the line moves, I'm going to be honest, I would just go ahead and avoid this one altogether, or maybe lean Bengals. I think the key thing here is getting the Jaguars at plus 3.5. If it goes to 3 or even 2.5, especially 2.5, I would just not even play this. But at plus 3.5 or higher, I think there's definite value on Jacksonville here. If we jump over the dashboard here on GuyBostonSports.com, we look at the DVOA rankings, which are updated for the 2025 season. The Jaguars defense 5th. Now again, they played Carolina. It's one game, so take it with a grain of salt. But their pass defense in particular, in terms of DVOA, actually was very phenomenal. 3rd best defense in the NFL in week 1. Now that's Bryce Young and the Panthers. Now you have Joe Burrow and the Bengals. A little bit different scenario, but this Jaguars defense actually looked pretty decent. I think Jaguars plus 3.5. They can keep this game close. I like the spot a lot. All right, guys, we're now moving into the 4 o'clock window, and this is my favorite play of the entire week slate. I talked about this on H2H. I doubled down on it. I put 2 units on this play in H2H. I'm going to go ahead and sing its praises here as well. We have Broncos, Colts, 4:05 p.m. kickoff. I'm going with Denver here, minus 1.5 on the spread. Plus 102 right now over on Novix. You're getting plus money here. This play is the benefit of the Colts completely outperforming their expectations against Miami, and the Broncos underperforming against the Titans. It's a perfect sort of marriage there of one team didn't play well in week 1, even though they did win the game, and one team played way above their expectations, and so now the line has adjusted. To me, it's a gift. I think the Broncos are still far and away the better team here. That's not to say the Colts aren't bad. I don't think the Colts week 1 win is an anomaly. Like we do see these happen early in the year, right? Last year, I always point to it as a key example, week 2 when the Raiders beat the Ravens. Okay, that game did not tell us much about the Raiders because they went on to have a terrible season. That was an anomaly. I don't think the Colts week 1 win over Miami is an anomaly. This team did win 8 games last year. That's amidst the quarterback stuff, switching between Richardson and Flacco last year. They still managed to go 8-9. I think this Colts team is around there again. I think this is going to be an 8 or 9 win team again this year. I think this team is solid. They have a good defense, solid offensive line, solid weapons. They've actually done a good job providing weapons with Tyler Warren at tight end, Michael Pittman at wide receiver, Jonathan Taylor at running back. And for all the hate that he's gotten, I actually do think Daniel Jones could be a competent game-managing quarterback. Now, I know a couple months ago that might have been crazy to say, but you saw it in week 1 versus Miami. He did a pretty good job managing, and this is the best team he's ever been a part of. I'll say that right now. I know they've been to the playoffs before with the Giants. This is the best team he's ever been a part of from top to bottom, and they're consistently good in almost every area. Solid protection. He's got weapons. He's got a defense. He's got a pretty good solid head coach and Shane Steichen. This is the best program he's ever been a part of in the NFL, and it showed in week 1. That being said, though, the Broncos and the Dolphins are on a very different level. This Broncos defense is going to make life very uncomfortable for Daniel Jones. They sacked Cam Ward 6 times in week 1. Now, granted, this offensive line and this offense is better than Tennessee, so I don't expect 6 sacks again. But the point being, this Broncos pass rush is lethal. They have strength in the secondary, obviously led by Pat Surtain II. I don't really foresee The Colts scoring 33 points in this one. And the Broncos offense very much struggled in week 1 against Tennessee. Some question marks there, but I trust Sean Payton as a head coach. We saw Bo Nix last year. He had a very strong rookie year. I think it's just kind of sort of that week 1 rust. You know, these teams, they don't play in the preseason. The starters don't play in the preseason. And that definitely affects them. In the early parts, this is basically their preseason, these first couple weeks. I think he'll settle in a little bit better here in week 2. They'll go ahead and make the necessary adjustments. I think Denver, again, if this was 4.5 or 5.5 or 6.5, I would probably lean Colts. But 1.5, basically a field goal, less than a field goal wins this game. You're giving me plus money. You could probably go get Denver at minus half a point right now. Let's see, minus 120, so win by 1. You can get them as an underdog right now, plus 1.5 for minus 148. Okay, that's pretty crazy. We're gonna take a minus 1.5. I almost went alternate line here if I'm being honest, but I'll take plus 102, minus 1.5. This Broncos team is way too good. They're going to win this game. I don't think they're going to kill them. I think the Colts are a relevant team, but the Broncos are definitely the better side here. I expect Denver to go ahead and win this one. So minus 1.5 or plus 102. I love this play. I'm going to put at least 1.5 units on this, maybe even 2 like I did on H to H. I love this pick. It's my favorite pick of the entire week. I'd say it's a lock, honestly. All right, next up, guys, another 4:05 p.m. kickoff. We have Panthers, Cardinals. I'm going to go ahead here and rock with the over 43.5 for these two teams. Minus 110 on FanDuel is what I'm personally grabbing it for here. If I'm being honest, the reason I'm taking the over here, I don't trust either of these defenses. If we go over the dashboard here in Guy Boston Sports, the DVO rankings, again, this is only taking week 1 into consideration. The Panthers defense, 19th in total DVOA, 14th against the pass, 29th against the run. Arizona, a little bit better, 12th in DVOA, 9th against the pass, 23rd against the run. But to be totally fair, Arizona played Spencer Rattler in week 1 in that Saints offense. So, yeah, the passing defense was supposed to be better. You're playing the Saints. But the run defense wasn't great, and then obviously Carolina, they didn't play all that well defensively either. I just don't love either team defensively. Although I don't love the offenses either, I do think these defenses are so bad that both teams should be able to score some points here. This is kind of what I thought last week, too, with the Jaguars and the Panthers, but the Jaguars defense actually played pretty well. I think Carolina, I think they've looked pretty bad. Everyone's hopping off the Bryce Young train again. To be fair, he did look like he did early in last season when they benched him for Andy Dalton. But I think it's a good bounce back spot here. I think he should be able to score some points in this one. They only scored 10 versus the Jaguars. That's a bit low. I think this defense is worse than Jacksonville's. I think that he should be able to go ahead and score at least a couple of touchdowns towards the total. But more importantly, I think Arizona offensively, who only scored 20 points against the Saints in week 1, they should go ahead and pour some more on this Panthers defense. I think Arizona will do a lot of the heavy lifting here, but I do think Carolina should be able to score enough to contribute to the total. This, to me, looks like a 28-17 game in the favor of Arizona, something along those lines. I think the Cardinals should be able to go ahead and score some points here in this spot. And again, Carolina will be able to score just enough to contribute towards that total. And I know their offensive DVOA was really bad, specifically the passing game. But again, Arizona's pass defense, although it was decent in week 1, I don't think it's the best pass defense. Carolina should fare better in the passing game. That whole lightning delay, I think, kind of screwed up the momentum for Carolina. It's kind of screwed up the flow. So I don't think we'll see that again this week, but you never know, I guess. But I do like the over here as the play from this game. I don't want to pick a side. The Panthers could explode in this game. It's just a crazy game. When these type of teams play, the total is the best way to go ahead and approach it. All right, guys, this next game is possibly, and I think it probably is, not possibly, I think it is, the game of the week. We have the Super Bowl rematch, Eagles at Chiefs, 4:25 p.m. kickoff on Sunday. This is our last Sunday game we're covering in this video because I don't do the Sunday Night Football games here. We have our own separate Sunday Night Football video that I do here on the channel that I'll talk about the game. So we won't talk about Sunday night here. So this is the last game for the Sunday slate that we're talking about in this video. But Eagles, Chiefs, and I'm going to be honest, up until basically when I hit record, I was leaning Kansas City. I'm going Eagles on the money line here, minus 112 over on Nova. Again, a lot of different options to go ahead and tail this one. Like I said, I was leaning Kansas City all the way until I hit record. Now, to be fair, they lost by 6 to the Chargers in week 1 in an international game. Everyone is overreacting. Everyone is saying the Chiefs are dead. The Chiefs are done. We've seen this story time and time again. This is very similar to the Patriots when they come out a little bit flat and then they just go ahead and bounce back. That's why I kind of like it. They're a home dog. Not very often has he ever been. Actually, I think only once in Mahomes' career as a starter has he been a home underdog. I honestly can't think of a time. Maybe once. This Eagles team, though, is really, really good. And I do think the Chiefs, it's not a matter of just starting off slow. I think this Chiefs team does have some issues here. I think their offensive line, which a lot of people were hyping up, I don't think it's going to take some time. I think the Chiefs' offensive line will be okay, but it will take some time. Going up against the Eagles here, not exactly a good kind of, hey, let's get in a rhythm kind of thing. That's, Chargers week 1, Eagles week 2. Very tough start to the year for the Chiefs. The offensive line, early in the year, some question marks, and then they lose Xavier Worthy, who I don't know if he's going to play or not, but they were already short to begin without Rashee Rice. Now you lose Xavier Worthy, and this Chiefs offense, it just looks so paper thin. Remember back when they had Tyreek Hill? Now, it's funny because when they traded Tyreek Hill, obviously they've won Super Bowls, they've had success post-Tyreek, but we have to admit, since Tyreek's been gone, this offense has not looked the same. They've never been close to that offense when how dynamic it used to be. It's been still solid, and it's had its moments, but it's definitely been on the decline for years now, and we've now gotten to this point where I just don't love their offense. Even as great as Mahomes is, his supporting cast, honestly, is very underwhelming. Travis Kelce can still make plays here and there, but let's be honest, he's nowhere near the player he was 3 or 4 years ago. And the rest of the wide receiver room, you've got Tyquan Thornton carried over from the Patriots. You've got Hollywood Brown being really the only consistent thing they've got. You've got I think Juju Smith-Schuster's still there. I don't love their offense and their running game. I don't know how much success you're going to have running the football against this Eagles defensive line. I just have a lot of question marks here with the Chiefs offense. And defensively, the Chiefs honestly look pretty suspect against the Chargers. The Chargers were able to kind of do whatever they wanted in the passing game, and they don't have the strongest receiving core. So a lot of questions there. It was week 1. I think the Chiefs are better than week 1 showed. And again, as bad as they were, they only lost that game by 6. Okay, the Chiefs are still the Chiefs at the end of the day, but I think they're a weaker version. This reminds me a lot of like the 2019 Patriots after they won their last Super Bowl. They're still a good team. They're still going to make the playoffs. They're still going to win 10 games plus, but they're definitely not as strong as they used to be. You can just tell the team is getting older. You can see they're getting thinner because contracts have gotten bigger. I think Philadelphia is the better team here, and I know a lot of people want the revenge game narrative for the Chiefs. And trust me, I bet the Chiefs want to win this game more than anything. They got embarrassed in the Super Bowl last year. But I think the Eagles are clearly the better team. I think, as much as motivation there is, I think the Eagles obviously want to win here hard, and they have a great team. So I like the Eagles a lot in the money line here, minus 112. Again, I do think Kansas City, they're going to be okay. I think they're going to right the ship eventually. But what I saw from week 1, I don't know if you can make those necessary adjustments right off the bat when you have the Eagles coming to town in week 2. So I like the Eagles here on the money line, minus 112. All right, guys, 2 picks left before we move on to the teaser and parlay portion of today's video. We have 2 Monday night games to look at. I'm not going to spend too much time on both these games because honestly, I think my position on them is very clear cut and dry. First off, we have Bucs, Texans, 7 p.m. kickoff on Monday. I'm going with the Texans on the money line here, minus 127. Minus 135 on DraftKings. And as great as the Bucs looked in week 1, I gotta be honest here, I'm still high on Houston. Now, I might be crazy, and you might call me a Texans homer at this point, but I still like the Texans a lot. Now, week 1 was a very disappointing showing for this Texans offense. It's very clear their offensive line is going to be an issue this season. But the good news here is that the Bucs defense is nowhere near as strong as the Rams defense, specifically their pass rush. They're not going to be able to rush CJ Stroud the way that the Rams were. I think Houston offensively should have some more success, but on the flip side, this Texans defense is legitimately a top 5 defense in the league. I don't see Baker Mayfield and the Bucs having the same kind of success they had versus Atlanta that they'll have here. More importantly, Tristan Wirfs, I believe, is still going to be out in this game. Godwin is still going to be out. They have some big injuries. Yeah, Tristan Wirfs is still out in this game as of now. That's obviously not very good when you're going against this Texans pass rush. You can manage versus Atlanta completely. They don't have a pass rush like this anywhere near this. Okay, you could survive versus Atlanta, but this Texans pass rush is going to put a lot of pressure on Baker. Obviously, that week 1 loss, very disappointing. They need to go ahead and right the ship here. I think they do this here in week 2. I think Tampa Bay's offensive line without Tristan Wirfs will struggle against this Texans pass rush. I think Tampa Bay's defense is not terrible, but it's just weak enough where I think the Texans can go ahead at home and kind of get right in this spot. So I like Houston on the money line here, minus 135 on DraftKings. Again, I'm not saying this will be a blowout. I'm not saying Houston's going to kill them. I think it's going to be a very close kind of field goal type of game. But I think Houston's defense is so damn good. And with the Tristan Wirfs injury, I think Tampa Bay could struggle a little bit offensively in this game. It was good in week 1 for sure, but tough matchup here in week 2. So I like Texans on the money line. If they lose this game, it's time to sound the alarms in Houston because that's a problem. But I think Houston does come away with a win here on Monday night. And then, guys, our second Monday Night Football play of the week, but our final single bet / whatever you want to call it, straight bet play of the week. We have Chargers Raiders 10 p.m. on Monday night. It's my second favorite play of the entire week. It's Chargers -3. Chargers on extended rest. Obviously, they played on Friday. Now they get to wait until they play on Monday. So they kind of get awarded for playing international. They get a little extra rest coming into this matchup versus the Raiders. So they get more time to prep, more time to prepare. And I think a lot of people are hyping the Raiders. And I have a lot of Raider fans. Well, not a lot. I have one best friend who's a Raider fan. And because of him, I have been seeing a lot of Raiders fan stuff. I think Raiders are overhyping that win way too much. I think that game, and granted, they did play well. I don't want Raiders fans to hate me. They did play well, but I think that was more the Patriots stinking than it was necessarily the Raiders dominating. Brock Bowers is also not 100%. He's obviously hurt here with a knee injury, so we'll see if he even plays or not. But even if he does play, he's obviously a bit hampered. And while the Patriots defense could not take advantage of the injuries and everything, I think the Chargers definitely, I'm sorry, was fumbling my words there. Although the Patriots offense was not able to take advantage of a weaker Raiders defense, the Chargers definitely will. You saw the way they were throwing the football. It seemed like they have gotten better with the passing game. They put a little more emphasis on the passing game. Quentin Johnson really popped. The return of Keenan Allen has definitely helped. I think the Chargers are going to be able to dice them any way they want, on the ground, through the air. I just don't love the Raiders defense. I think the Patriots offense was that weak that it made the Raiders defense look good. To be fair, I do think Pete Carroll will make them better than they were last year. Just even though their personnel isn't great, he's just that good of a defensive coach where he'll be able to get them going. But I have severe question marks on both sides of the ball. I don't think Ashton Jeanty looked all that great. The Brock Bowers injury, all that stuff, you're not going to be able to throw for 362 on this Chargers defense. You're not. I think Chargers -3. It's a great game here. The Raiders have struggled versus the AFC West, especially last year. They went 0-6 versus the AFC West. This Chargers team is legit. I am buying all the stock I can on this Chargers team. This Raiders team is a good win to start the year, but I saw some things in that game, some weaknesses. I feel like that was more the Patriots lost than it was the Raiders won, and I just don't think the same mistakes and the same weaknesses the Patriots have, the Chargers do not have them. And I think Chargers will take care of business here. -3 for -120 on FanDuel. Great value. I think the Chargers roll in this game, if I'm being honest. All right, guys, so those are all my picks for this week's slate. Now, like we didn't do it last week, because last week the video was going way too long, and we took our, it was too long. If I did parlays and teasers, that video would have been an hour and a half long. Now this week, we've been a little more efficient with our time here. We have some parlays and teasers to go ahead and close out today's video. Now, if you missed last year, what I typically do to close out every episode of The Oracle, I do 3 teasers and 3 parlays to close out the video. So starting off with the teasers here, we have our total tease. So we'll jump over, and I do use DraftKings for the teasers. I just feel like I have the best experience using DraftKings. So the first teaser is the total tease. It's a 3-leg teaser, a 7-point tease, plus 120 odds over on DraftKings. We have the over in the Jaguars-Bengals game, the under in the Rams-Titans game, and the under in the Seahawks-Steelers game. Obviously, these 2 unders I gave you guys as regular picks in the video, and then the over was what I mentioned I liked, but I wasn't sure about taking it at its actual line. At the tease total now, we have the Jaguars-Bengals over at 41.5. We have the Rams-Titans under at 48.5, and the Seahawks-Steelers under at 46.5. Again, it's a 3-leg teaser, plus 120 odds. All right, guys, my second teaser in today's video, it's just a favorites tease. These are the 4 teams I think will definitely win their games. It's my favorite teams of the week in terms of them winning their matchups, and it's just taking the spread down a bit. So we have the Bills, we have the Ravens, we have the Chargers, and we have the Broncos here this week. And look at the tease. So now it's a 4-leg teaser, 7-point tease, plus 180 odds on DraftKings. So the Bills are now plus 0.5. So they literally just have to win the game outright. Doesn't matter how much, win the game, and or even tie it, I guess, and this leg covers. We have Ravens minus 4.5. I think they should beat the Browns, but that 11.5 point line is way too high. This is one of the games I skipped in today's video. We have Chargers plus 4. Even in the event the Raiders do win the game, I don't think they're winning by more than 4 points. So Chargers get a little insurance there. And same thing with Denver, plus 5.5 now. I think the Broncos win the game, but even if they do lose, I don't think they get blown out here. So these kind of are some insurance plays there. But it's a 4-leg teaser, 7-point tease, plus 180 odds. And then last but not least, guys, our third and final teaser. This is the big tease, and we do a giveaway every week here on the channel. So if this teaser hits, one lucky commenter who comments big tease down below will win a free $25 Amazon gift card. Again, if this teaser hits, One lucky commenter will win a free $25 Amazon gift card. So our 4-leg teaser, it's minus 140. It's a 13-point teaser. So again, as long as it hits, we're picking a winner down below in the comments. Patriots, Chargers, Broncos, Cowboys. Chargers and Broncos, obviously I'm double dipping here, but Pats and Cowboys throwing a little mix in there. It's a 13-point teaser, so we're taking almost 2 touchdowns off the spread. So the Patriots are going to be plus 14.5. The Chargers will be plus 10. The Broncos will be plus 11.5. And the Cowboys plus 8.5. So all these teams that don't even need to win anymore, as long as they don't lose by more than, they can all lose by a touchdown and they still cover these spreads. So the big tease is minus 140, 13-point teaser. You got some juice on there for sure, but this should be a lock or as close to a guaranteed bet as you can possibly get. All right, guys, looking at parlays, we have a 6-leg parlay. This is all favorites. These are, again, kind of double dipping on a lot of these teams, which obviously if one of these teams loses, it could be a disaster for us. It happens. That's why you usually don't do this, but I'm very confident in my picks here. We have 6 teams. They're all favorites. These are the teams I expect to definitely win their matches. We have Packers money line, Bills money line, Broncos money line, Eagles money line, Texans money line, and Chargers money line. You parlay all 6 together. It's a parlay of plus 1657. Again, you're not putting your house on this. You're just putting a little bit on there. You're sprinkling something on there for the 6-leg parlay. Again, I think all 6 of these teams should win in week 2. Next, we have a 3-leg underdog parlay. These are money line picks on teams that I think they should go ahead and in terms of the underdogs that should win this week or could win, these are the ones I like. We have Panthers money line, Patriots money line, and Jaguars money line. You parlay all 3 together. You got a parlay of plus 1529 for just a 3-leg parlay. Again, got some underdogs there, but these are teams where I feel like they're winnable matchups in these games. If we're going underdogs, these are definitely the place to go. And then this next parlay, we're just going to go ahead and pick a bunch of totals here. So I do like the under here in the Packers Commanders. I like the over in Bills Jets. I like I'm going to skip the Cowboys Giants. We're doing this live. We're going over. I'm going to skip a couple of these here too. I'm going with best totals. All right, under 41.5 for Rams Titans. We're doing this one live. I'm going to go ahead and do under 40.5 for Niners Saints. I think that's going to be a crapshoot. Mac Jones is starting. We're going to go under here, 46.5 for Lions Bears. We're going to go. Ooh, the line dropped a little bit there. We're going to probably avoid that one. Under 43.5 Patriots Dolphins for sure. We're going to go ahead and go with the over Panthers Cardinals. Broncos Colts. I am going to go under in that game. I don't really see too much happening there. We're going to skip that. And we'll finish off here with the... No, that's good. That's good. 8-leg parlay plus 17,213. It's a massive parlay. Again, you're just sprinkling something on here. All we need to do is hit one of these things this year, and we're good to go. So yeah, 8-leg parlay plus 17,213. You want to throw a little something on there, go for it. We'll be a little bit more focused with future videos with the parlays here. And I don't know if I had my camera correctly on. I hope I did. We'll be a little bit more focused with the parlays in future weeks. But for this week, it's early. We're getting a little crazy here with the parlays. Guys, that is it for me today. Thank you very much, as always, for watching. One more time, please make sure to go ahead and hit the subscribe button, hit that like button, and drop a comment down below. We will be back next week with another edition of the NFL Oracle. Until then, guys, I hope you're all winners. Again, make sure to subscribe to the channel. We have so much great content coming out. I have my NFL player prop video actually coming out this week. And I know I let some people down last week. We will be going live this Sunday, so don't worry. We will be going live. We also have our Sunday Night Football videos still to come, college football videos, all that good stuff. So make sure you are subscribed to the channel. Until next time, guys, I hope you're all winners. But more importantly, let's go ahead and make some damn money.